Thank you for joining us for this session dedicated to water and the young waves for action. What energy behind that phrase. Water is life. It's a precondition for humans, for animals, for plants, as well as an indispensable resource for the economy. Water is also playing a fundamental role in the climate regulation cycle. I think we should start by acknowledging that. And that 2 decades ago, we have already achieved progress in halting the constant deterioration of our freshwaters. This does not mean that we have done all and that there's nothing else to do. But we have to acknowledge that this is because the European Union has been very active from many decades ago on putting together a set of regulations, rules, standards, which we can call environmental law of the European Union. This has been ambitious. It has set ambitious objectives in the early days. And it's only because of this that we have set the objectives and the bar very high to have a very good status of water bodies, such as in rivers, in wetlands, in aquifers. And I think we have to give recognition here to the Water Framework Directive in particular. Recently, we have adopted the Biodiversity Strategy, and this has provided us with new momentum and also fresh targets to step up the actual protection of the aquatic ecosystems. In parallel, we need to become much better at tackling pollution problems through reduced emissions, better water treatment, and more effective restoration efforts, amongst others. By tackling pollution, we ensure a better future and a healthier planet. Because we know pollution kills. In fact, 1 in 8 deaths in the whole of the European Union is linked to it. This includes deaths linked to water pollution. Some weeks ago, just on the 12th of May, on the day of the adoption of the Zero Pollution Action Plan for air, water and soil, the Executive Vice President Timmermans stressed that to provide a toxic-free environment for people and planet, we have to act now. So we are really racing against time, and we are working against the holistic, all-encompassing backdrop of the European Green Deal, which is attempting to revamp the way we produce and consume and move. Our vision is the one of a toxic-free society by 2050, with pollution reduced to levels which are no longer harmful for nature and humans. This is what we mean by zero pollution, and this is the work that we have to aim for. In this flagship initiative, water is one of the 3 main pillars. Among its well-defined 33 actions, we aim to review the lists of pollutants in groundwater and surface waters. We want to rid ourselves of substances that, in the short or longer run, endanger our own and our nature's health. We seek action not only downstream, such as the level of wastewater, for instance, but also upstream, where substances are produced. In our daily work, we take participative approaches very seriously. We seek advice and opinions from all involved sectors and stakeholders. However, we often lack a direct communication with future generations. And this is why we're here today. In keeping in mind the future of our water, we need to understand what youngsters and young professionals think of water pollution and its consequences. We need to make sure we are also considering their perspective, their needs, and their fears. Learning about younger generations' views can enrich the way we act and prioritize at policy level, and can teach us valuable lessons on how we want to communicate the Zero Pollution Action Plan. Thus, I warmly thank all of you who have contributed by sending in materials, those of you who are present today, and I fully encourage all young voices to speak up and share your views. Let me wish you a fresh and wavy session full of interesting videos and dynamic discussions. Enjoy.
Thank you, Ms. Joanna Drake, Deputy Director of the Directorate General of Environment of the European Commission, for this great opening. And thank you for the water team of the DG Environment for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to co-organize and moderate this session today. My name is Naomi Timmer. I'm living in The Hague, the Netherlands, and I'm the Director of H2O People and our flagship program, the European Junior Water Program. 2 years ago, we started this integrated holistic development program for young professionals in the water sector to give them tools, skills, mindsets to work together on a framework which is truly European and full of collaboration, instead of all fragmented elements. I think we are creating a European-based community of water professionals for the future, who want to empower the water sector and to create a new positive path forward. To share knowledge, to create knowledge and enthusiasm in a true holistic leadership approach with a European context, to create more empowerment and social grounded transformations. Within the upcoming hour, I hope we will be engaging you and inspire you to join us in making waves together with our panelists and the closing remarks of Ms. Veronica Manfredi, Director General of the Environment of the European Commission, and keep the waves moving and social to create a growing movement of action and empowerment of young professionals all over Europe. But before heading to the panelists, we launched on the April 22nd a social media campaign to collect all voices from all around Europe on zero water pollution. Throughout the world, people were picking up this question on making waves through an online festival, and we received movies and created an overview of starting them, and we would like to give them the floor at the start of this great session on making waves, young people's view on water pollution. If we can see the movie of the young voices, that would be great.
Thank you to everyone for coming.
De rivieren die stromen vaak naar de zee toe.
Pollution is everywhere, and the situation is worse with the climate change. Thus, achieving zero water pollution is crucial.
What does it mean to you to have clean water?
Vinden jullie water belangrijk?
Ja.
En waarom is water belangrijk?
Voor ons en de dieren.
Well, every day, around 2 million tons of sewage, industrial and agricultural waste is released into water bodies all around the world. This is not only detrimental to the environment, but also to public health, as untreated wastewater that goes around comes around as sources of drinking and irrigation water for many people around the world. I am personally affected by it, as large amounts of untreated wastewater is also discharged into the environment in my home country in India.
I'm currently living in Berlin, Germany, so it affects me through the different micropollutants and or chemicals of emerging concern that cannot be easily treated by our drinking water systems at this moment. So these different pollutants that we know very little about are still entering into our bodies, and there's only just research starting now on how they're affecting humans.
In Uganda, over 500 tons of plastic waste is produced every day, and 51% of this waste is not collected. Most of this waste ends in the waterways, in the trenches, and also in open places where people dump the waste. And as a result, when it rains, most of the waste is taken away by the water to our rivers and to our lakes, and this contaminates the water that we are supposed to drink or cook with or shower with. And this causes diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, cholera, and also malaria.
We only have one water in the world, and we need to reuse it every time. It's also their water.
Water reuse, recovery, and recycle are among possible solutions for industry, which is the main polluter for water.
Well, my visions for zero water pollution would be where it is the norm rather than the exception, that people know where their water is coming from, where their wastewater is going, and how their food is grown. This, when combined with principles such as circular economy, zero liquid discharge, and resource recovery in the water systems, can provide solutions to these problems.
In terms of my vision, the thoughts, and also the challenges to overcome in achieving zero water pollution, for me, it's really a lot about raising awareness and bringing the right stakeholders into the room.
It's crucial to put the topic zero water pollution in public opinion. Europe, tired of this pandemic crossing by COVID-19, does not just need normality. It needs new visions, other ways of working. It needs us to risk having dreams. Young professionals of the water sector should dream of a better world. The future depends on the quality and consistency of our dreams.
Is er te weinig schoon water in de wereld?
Ja.
En wat kunnen we daaraan doen?
Minder vervuiling in de zee gooien op straat.
We do know that achieving this goal is challenging in the water sector. However, with innovative solutions and collective efforts, the aim will become a reality.
Thank you all contributors for this great movie which we compiled together. If you're curious about their whole videos, go to our social media accounts, and they have been produced there and showed there, and you can all find them still. I know all people think that the younger generation is comfortable to make these movies, but I know it is out of your comfort zone to take this opportunity and to send out this message. So thank you so much for that. We will take your messages to the panelists. But before introducing the panelists, I hope you also found the opportunity to find yourself and get yourself into the Slido of this conference and joined the session on 6.2. This is the platform where you can raise all questions during this session. And we also will have some polls in between. At the moment, you can also already find a question there about what touched you within these videos, which is we will also ask to the panelists. But we're also very curious, like what are your views of zero water pollutions, and what do you think the actions are we need to take? So join the Slido and let yourself hear. You can also use the Twitter. We will also keep track of it. We will try to answer the questions that are being raised as much as possible, so we will keep an eye on it. And if not, I hope we can answer it in a later stage by using our social media channels. After a short introduction of all panelists, which they will shortly introduce themselves with a short statements, they will take their turn on what zero water pollution means to them. So, up to our panel. First, I would like to introduce to you our first panelist, Ms. Josefina Maistru. Josefina Maistru is an economist with more than 30 years of experience in working mainly on water economics and policy, both nationally and internationally. She was the director of the UN Office of the International Water Decade until 2015. She has written and lectured for more than 15 years. I do believe that this is our young professional of the future, and please do let us know with this introduction, what does zero water pollution means to you, and what does young voices need to take up in this approach?
Thank you very much, Naomi, and thanks for the invitation to all of you and for the energy of this session. We are all looking forward to that. I think for me, zero pollution means two things. So I would like to highlight the most important things for me. One is that reducing the toxic pollutants, that affect our health. So we need to focus on chemical contaminants, that the so-called emerged pollutants that I think somebody was talking about in the video, our Berlin colleague, and that we have not been monitoring enough. That is the issue, that we have really not been monitoring enough those kind of emergent pollutants. For example, pharmaceuticals in water, endocrine disruptors that affect our reproductive capacities and that of the living species in water. So sustainability in its greatest sense. If we cannot reproduce ourselves, we have a problem with our race and the other living species in the planet. So that's first thing. The second thing is that it means eliminating the adverse impacts of our production activities on the planet. The way we build our cities is important because it's how we generate wastewater that we need to treat. The way we produce food, using fertilizers and pesticides that pollute our land, air, and soil, is affecting living species as well. So for me, to address this, the Zero Pollution Action Plans, for me, represents a call for understanding the impacts. I think we have had this in the introduction. A call for living within our planetary limits. A call for changing our model of production and consumption. So that's very, very important for farmers, industries, cities. For example, using less toxic pesticides. If you ask me about something that is very important in Europe, I will talk about that. Less toxic pesticides. That's going to be, we can focus on that and we can move on that front. I think that will be very important. But also in cities, it looks like cities have nothing to do with this, or we treat our waters with wastewater treatment plants, but that's not the case. We need to build sustainable drainage in cities. We have to change the design of our cities to reduce wastewater going to wastewater treatment plants and fulfilling a double role, recharging our aquifers and also preventing the pollution going to rivers without being treated when there is a storm, because otherwise the wastewater treatment plants activate the wastewater overflow facilities. I don't think we are focusing enough on that either. So very important, pesticides, but also the way we have designed our cities. And I think that the most interesting part of all, in terms of the Zero Action Plan for me, is the call for exercising our responsibility as citizens, as consumers. I think in that, the young generations have a lot to say. The way we eat is important, how we make our decisions about what we eat, taking into consideration the eco-labeling of products, will mean that the choices that are made drive farmers to use different and less toxic products, much more than other kinds of enforcements or fines or anything else. We have much more power as consumers than we think. And the other thing is that the way we build our cities is important, like I explained. And we also need as citizens to support enforcement and monitoring. I think that's what it says in the Zero Action Plan. So try to work more as a network society. Everybody has a role. Governments have a role with recovery and resilience plans, that's very clear. But there is a need, help of the young generations, of everybody, in developing innovative solutions so that producers can achieve zero pollution, in creating monitoring and enforcement tools, advisory tools, and very important, passing the message, talking and providing information on the impacts and the solutions. So we need to support the tools that are created by the action plan about fora for making this everybody's business. And finally, there are social instruments that maybe are not so much in the action plan, like river contracts, volunteering, making pledges, that's in the action plan, paying prices. In Spain, we have developed a green book for water governance that has developed some of these cooperative arrangements that we think are very important for moving this forward. But the society has to be convinced of this. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to the dialogue and the debate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josefina, for being here. The second panelist I would like to introduce to you is Maros Halama. He is the Vice Dean for Research, Innovation and International Relations of the Technical University of Košice in the Faculty of Materials, metallurgy and recycling, and head of the corrosion testing laboratory, and a broker at the Prometic National Center of Advanced Materials and Technology of the Slovak Academy of Science. He stretches from the field of corrosion to industrial requirements and failure analysis to water, oil, gas, coating, everything that comes and goes into our water. Maros, please, could you take the floor and let us know, what do you think of zero water pollution, and what is your understanding of the importance of young voices in this discussion?
Thank you, Naomi, for having us on board. What I do for a whole professional life is dealing with interaction of materials with environment, and it doesn't matter if it is atmosphere or it is electrolyte, but in majority is consists of water. So water is here a key element, and it's not only in water sector, or how we see it in developing or transporting water from the company to people, but it's also part of processing water into different kind of industries, like steel industry, food industry, our kind of industry, and is also a key element as an output element, because is a contaminated water coming out from these companies and needs to be treated using by latest technologies, for example, like nanotechnologies and so on. So at the end, we still have the same aim to have very high purity water or high quality water, because it's also depend or influence lifetime of our materials. So it decrease lifetime of these materials, and contamination of this water decrease, for example, some units and components in this kind of industry. So, for example, nowadays we are taking into account also Green Deal. We have a very climate ambitions. We are linked with industry, which are challenging into a decarbonization plan, massive decarbonization plan, and so we have green technologies, for example, like hydrogen. As you know, through the European Union Water Management Program, we have dealt with water management in a future hydrogen economy, which was one of a topic during last year. And here, as you see on the slide, water is a key input, because it must be pure as possible, and affecting efficiency of technologies inside, like electrodes on electrolyzers, and depend lifetime of this material. So this is very important. For example, from 1 kilo of green hydrogen, we need from 9 to 24 liters of hydrogen, depending on contamination of water. So it's also analysis on a table. It's very, very fresh, which is not we have experience like 10 or 20 years. For example, if we have some efficiency in electrolyzers putting on sea, still there is a lot of tons of water and consumption, so it's like comparable to small city. It doesn't matter, it is not a key question in coastal region, but inside countries without any sea level, where is water stress places. It is, I think, the key issue in the decarbonization plans in these countries. So this is one part of your question, and the second one, if we treat with the opinion how to, let's say, more make attractive water sector for young generation, because still there is a need on materials scientific background and chemical background in water sector. And we know now is a mega trend in IT technology. So everyone from younger generation would like to be an IT engineer, but we still need a quantum or critical mass of capacities for water sector regarding chemistry, material science. So how to attract the young generation, and there are some activities across Europe. Not only Europe is challenging this question, but it's United Kingdom, it's Asia, it's US, and it's, for example, implementing living labs or training in a terrain, in a field. For example, using this latest technology or green technologies like concrete hydrogen drone for collecting water samples in contamination zones, because it's expand your operation of your drone unit in a terrain, because batteries are for half an hour. So it's plenty of application or synergies between green technologies and latest technologies like nanotechnologies, and to make a huge impact on water management. And the aim is the same, like was mentioned, is zero pollution, zero contamination, or if not zero, we can minimize it as possible. Yeah, so I think these are challenges we fight, and we have a look for videos also that pollutants are visible but are also invisible. So we can deal also with this part of micropollutant, and more, maybe in the future will be nano waste also, because it has redox properties regarding to metallic nanoparticles. So we need to deal it as a scientific community, but in cooperation with policymakers, with local government, ministries, and Academy of Science. So all stakeholders, also industry, must be implemented. So this is my vision in a short way. Thank you.
Thank you, Maros. Thank you, Maros, for your great contribution, and we will talk further in the panel discussion. I would like to introduce to you our third panelist, Jeremy Thomas, originally French Nicaraguan, but considers himself from planet Earth. His career started in digital water grades and now has 8 years experience in the utility industry. He's not only a young professional in the water sector, he's on a mission to inspire others to talk water. So Jeremy, what do we need to talk about on water? And how do we need to deal with that zero water pollution? And why is it so important to talk about it?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this discussion. It's actually my first time participating at such a high level discussion, so very privileged. My answer to zero water pollution, or what it means, is very simple, and I'll further develop it. But simply said, it's not being afraid of falling or swimming in the river that flows through our city. Because today, when I ask the majority of people that live in Paris, where I live, if they'd like to go for a swim in the Seine River, the answer is no, it's dirty. And I realized that that statement doesn't cover the fact, or doesn't cover the fact that toxic water is toxic. It has a different level of toxicity depending on other creatures, or that doesn't impact other creatures. But and my answer to that is very simple. I think we need to do a lot more talking about water and in the environment in general. And what I mean is, we shouldn't underestimate the power that one person can have, and the power of simple words and communication. So I've always been an advocate, and I've always had a passion for the environment and water. And every project I've undertaken, or job I've taken, it's always been about, okay, what's my positive impact here? And always been about trying to raise awareness and have basically the most positive impact possible towards the environment and water. Over the years, I got into more corporate jobs, and I kind of felt myself distancing from these values. And I asked myself, okay, what's one way I can have an impact? I can have a positive impact, but also keep my, corporate job, which I like very much. And one morning I woke up and I thought to myself, okay, have I got 365 things to say about water? And the answer to that was very simple. It was, of course I do. I love water. I know so many things about water. I can just post one daily post every day on water on LinkedIn and see what happens. And that's what I started doing. I started posting daily posts on water on LinkedIn. I'll stop saying daily post daily after that. And the objective was simply to raise awareness on water topics in the hope of helping people find solutions, in the hope of creating conversations and helping people with problems connect with people that have solutions to their problems, and also in the hopes of raising awareness outside the sector, because it can quickly become just a community of water professionals, but that wasn't the main aim. And obviously, posts don't have an immediate success. It takes a lot of tries, but gradually, after a few likes here and there, Let's Talk Water, so it started gaining traction, and the conversations became more and more rich, and more interesting. And it was very much a surprise for me. And today I look back and I realize that I finally, reached the impact that I want, and I want to continue having that impact. And the way I interpret that impact is that every like or comment that lands on each post is kind of like a seed that's being implemented in that reader's mind, which is gonna either help him shift his mindset, gain new consciousness about a water topic, and also I have high hopes that it inspires that reader to, also talk water and also talk environment to those around him. So yeah, that's my message around the zero water pollution, raising more awareness. And obviously Josefina and Marcos, covered the technical aspects of what it really means to get to zero water pollution. And I totally agree with everything that they've said so far.
Well, so let's talk water.
Let's talk water.
Continue to talk water.
Yes.
Perfect.
And we can move on to Joanna, who has a very nice video to share with us, which is all about talking water.
We'll move forward to Joanna, because I want to introduce to you our final panelist, Joanna Baccalo, who is UN Sustainable Development Goal Youth Champion of Goal number 6, ensuring availability and sustainable management of water for all. She credits her unique entry to the water community with work and advocacy collaborations after her professional aviation experience as an air hostess supervisor. She traveled over the world and she found her path to water, which we are really glad. She found a water story and she became water storyteller. I want to be that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. But before I'm going to give you the floor, Joanna, you already did some preparations. And after the video, I would like to ask you, how did you start this message? How did you get to it? And what stood out of the messages of the young professionals and the kids at the beginning as well? But before we are going to you, Jo, please, she made a perfect movie to show what zero water pollution is.
Thank you to everyone for coming in here. I hope our oral arguments in support of our motions enlighten us to resolve our cases. To our complainants and subjects of the complaints, welcome to all of you. I can see, Ocean, you're warming up. Please go ahead and start.
Yes, you're right. My 96.5% water is warming. I'm speaking on behalf of the ecosystems, the rivers, the streams, and all the waterfronts. It's way too warm. I feel no one gives. Oh,
crying out loud. Don't be too ungrateful. You cover 71% of this planet already. I saw you're complaining about me again. And the rest of your greenhouse gang. No one is looking after me. If only they knew I absorb half of all of you carbon dioxide of the world. Yeah, I totally understand, Ocean. There's so much pressure in the waters. I support the ocean like many living creatures. Thanks, Ice. I'm trying to hold it together here. But you're also making my water rise. OMG. Ocean's melting Greenland. Hang on, Ocean. We're on the same team here. 70% of the world's fresh water is on me. Dude, I'm like your savings account. I'm complaining too because I have shorter winters. It's warmer each year. COVID-19, please get off the surface. I know that, Ice. But then again, the pressure is on me. It's heavy. I try to absorb the heat because I'm dark. But I only have a few algae to absorb my carbon dioxide. Sorry, Ocean. You have to deal with my excess melting. I mean, what can I do? I hate the heat too. My glaciers break. I can't even do my job reflecting the sunlight back to space. Oh, so you blame me for the heat. You know that without me, this planet will be too cold. Your plants are 45% carbon. Why don't you open your eyes and see your other sources of headache? Order. Please defend yourself. Hi. Good day. Our company is indeed heavy duty. We do not degrade easily. We are at your service when you clean your homes, offices, and a lot more. Even in your daily transport. With all due respect to chemicals and industries, I've had some erosion issues because of you. You see, my worms are like soil mixers and they... Ew. So dirty. Our 187 types of products need some fragile handling. I don't think you understand chemicals and industries. I'm just here because I want everyone to know that I'm part of the solution. Nobody cares because you're dirt. Not many see a relationship between climate. I think that's exactly my point. You can't ignore me nor my filth. I cover 40% of Europe's forests. I know you hate me too, carbon dioxide. I absorb 5 billion tons through photosynthesis passed through the ground. Hello? You know that we're not able to talk about climate if we don't talk about water. The rainforests of my sea, my precious corals are bleaching. This acidification is killing me. I'm 30% more acidic and 100% angry right now. Sorry, excuse me. I'm sitting beside COVID-19 and carbon dioxide. I'm here for you, Ocean. I'm so sorry for the heat. I try to hold the water too and carbon dioxide, but the more carbon, more pollen, the more allergies and more heat waves. Oh dear. I feel very offended. Everyone is blaming me. We know that there are a lot more notorious out there. Even if you don't see them, does not mean to say they don't exist. Oh, I know. Bioaerosols travel long distances, but they don't fly. Or smog, like ash from volcanoes. Please, may I request COVID-19? Stop mutating. We're quite overwhelmed here. So, anybody else from the pollutants? Oh, there we go. Microplastics. The average European consumer of shellfish is 11,000 particles per year. I thought some mid-shot president banned your products last 2015. Oh yeah, there's one person who care. Cosmetics with microbeads. I heard about the little cute plastic cups and bamboo straws. So cute. But that's okay. I'm still ever present in everyone's clothing. One gram of fibers from your washing machine. The wetlands, the rivers that flow towards me are home to baby fish, frogs, turtles, and alligators. They think you're food. So mean. The plastic have reached my place too. The birds can't resist you. Me too. 79% of plastics end up in my landfills. Well, don't hate me because I'm colorful. You guys are just jealous because I'm young and sparkly. This is supposed to be my spotlight. The decade of ocean science for sustainable development. Okay, enough. Order on this planet. It seems that we're not even coming up with any solutions. I would have to adjourn this meeting and submit all the reports to our jury. The wastewater treatment, renewable energies, and regenerative farming. Anybody else want to say anything? I do. Many times I feel powerless with all the challenges that we face. Clearly, hearing these complaints from our environment make me feel insignificant at times. But despite all of these, I know that our collective daily actions can inspire change and even movements across generation. I know that a sustainable zero-pollution future is possible when, little by little, we adopt to a greener economy. Inasmuch as we appreciate you giving us a seat at this table, this transition will not be possible
if we're not part of the collaboration in designing our water and environment's future. Zero pollution starts with one action. Join me.
Thank you, Joe, for this film. So what's your take on zero water pollution?
Thank you so much for having me here, and I hope that you enjoy my call to action video. And I find it that I would like to emphasize more on the communication behind the science. And I'm speaking on my personal view, as I was not part of the water industry or the water people, as we say. But how do we communicate this science to translate it into what we say non-water audience? This is the age and the time and the generation where they wanted this awareness, as what the other colleagues in the videos have mentioned, that this awareness should be transformed into an advocacy. And through that advocacy, we actually, as youth, wanted to get our elders and our policymakers held accountable for change. And I think that's what's the most important message of the zero water pollution is, like Ms. Mansu said, it's more of transformational change on having to check our human systems and our relationship with consumption. Because as what I said in the video, sometimes you think as a young water person or a young person, your one action is not contributing to a bigger change. But if we choose a greener option or a more sustainable option in our daily living, I think it can have a ripple effect. So yeah.
Thank you, Joe. And to open the floor for a further talk about this discussion, I would like to encourage also the audience to use the Slido to ask any questions or raise comments and put your opinions there as well, so we can take them along in this discussion, but also after that on the Making Waves movement as well. With this, Josefina Maestro, can I ask you, are you surprised by what you've seen from the younger generation so far, and how do you look at it?
Sorry, I didn't get your second question, sorry.
And yeah, what's your opinion of it? Are you surprised about what they bring forward, and how do you look at those opinions as well?
Well, I think first of all, in relation to the video itself that you presented at the beginning of the session, where we already had some young people's views, I think I was impressed with the fact that they were tackling the main problems we have, both in terms of wastewater and toxic pollutants. And I think for me that was, because I think already, they are focusing on what we really need to do and what are the real problems. And in terms of some of the other panelists trying to come together with some solutions, I think I would like to emphasize this role, not only as consumers, yes, I said that in my presentation, but also as developers of new solutions, that I think has been also raised by some people. We need a lot more technological development. But more than anything else, I think we need to think about raising awareness and creating better communication, but move our one step forward, which is taking responsibility. And I think the key word to this will be co-responsibility. We are all co-responsibles in this. It's not about us knowing more and asking governments to do things. It's about all of us doing things differently. So that's my message. And I would like to emphasize that in terms of what has been said. Thank you.
Thank you. Maros, can I ask you, is there a big gap between the young voices and a more older voice, or is it the same?
Yeah, I think, as was mentioned, it is synergies between all participants. So we need have all ambitions to create a better environment, and it's just step by step. It's very small steps, but if we calculate it in the final stage, it's a big step forward. So it's not only about authorities like European Commission here in Europe, but it's also a synergy between compatibility with local governments, ministries, and we know there is a different language between science and industry. So this is also a challenge, as Joanna said or mentioned, that we need to translate these results, scientific results, and in a good communication way to the public, because it is not understandable like hydrogen because it's explode or something. But if technology will be secure or safe, then it's no deal. So we have a lot of opportunities how to do it. We have technologies, we have science, but we need to all get together and to fight against this pollution and so on. So young generation here is a key, because we need new scientists. We need much more scientists in these green technologies, because it was not a standard for now. So I think this is my vision on this somehow.
Thank you. And why do we need younger voices on this, Maros? Why can't just the generation that has all the power do this? Why do you need someone young with no experience to take up that lead?
Yeah, they need to have a good mentor. Yeah? So if still is a team, so you need soft skills, but you need also hard skills. So it's just also from technical point of view, but also to translate this result in. But mentoring this generation, which has some experience from the older technologies, and they know about the bugs or gaps, yes, which is a continual process and development.
Yeah. Joe, why do you think it is important to keep also those younger views in mind when creating the actions towards the European Green Deal?
I'm getting a different question. What's the greatest challenge, you mean, Ms. Naomi?
No, well, that's also fine, but the greatest challenge as well, but also why is it important to keep the younger views in mind when creating the actions within the Green Deal? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Well, if we think about it, the youth is disproportionately affected in this conversation. And the generation that we have right now, our generation and even the youngest generation, they are not the generation to only receive information. They wanted to do something with that information, and they're not afraid to go to the street. And now that we're online because of the pandemic, they're still taking it on the street, which is online. Everyone is connected, and that's why they have the capacity to do that. And it is important to include them because, again, they're going to inherit this particular mess, as Greta Thunberg said. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Why do you think the current policy plans of zero pollution, do they match the vision of the younger generation and that ambition? Or do we think the younger generation thinks we can make even a bigger step forward in that transformation?
Oof, that's a tough question for me. I don't know the current policy plans in detail, but I just want to piggyback on the previous question. If we think about it, environmental issues consciousness really came like around the 90s, right? So the older generation was brought up not having this idea of environmental issues. And you guys will have to correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously they were taught about the environment, but not about, not so much about the pollution and all the different problems that we might have today. That came a bit later. So today, the younger generation that's entering the workforce is really coming with that in mind. and they are deliberately choosing jobs that have a positive impact, that are aligned with their values of helping improve the environment and finding solutions. So I think there's definitely a gap there, you know, and obviously the older generation is there to mentor, as Marcus said. And I can pass the other question on the policies to somebody who might have more details.
Oh, no, well, we did receive a question from the audience as well, which I don't want to take for granted. Joe, what is your greatest challenge which you encounter in your water advocacy work? So which challenges do you encounter while, make yourself heard?
The challenges pertain mostly, in my experience, has something to do with the resources. Remember that I was not coming from a water background. I was coming from the aviation sector, and travel is my only language. So my point is, how do I build capacity as a young person who wanted to join the workforce of water and to take part of this participation and collaboration with our industry and our leaders like Dr. Halama and Ms. Maetsu? So that was the biggest challenge. Like, where do I get the resources? I wanted to take part of the conversation. I wanted a space. So I think maybe Dr. Halama can expand on how do you help non-water people like me who wanted to be part of the conversation.
I think everything is about practice. So maybe we have one solution which we are preparing now. We are preparing a project, especially which is focusing to a living lab, which bring a laboratory to people. So, for example, we make a team of community of students from high schools and from secondary grammar school, supported by association, scientific association like hydrogen or water management, European water management or whatever, and also supported by local policymakers. And to bring this mobile laboratory in the field and to take some tours, so to spend some hour to measure with these high-tech technologies like bringing samples by hydrogen drone to measure contamination of heavy metals and have immediately results, or have a sensor implemented in. And so you just go with this drone and to measure directly online your contamination of environment. So technologies are there. But we need, like you, people like you who will, for example, make a video of this and to make it in this better way, better explained to the public, because scientists are not able to transport these results in a marketing way, let's say.
Josefina, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I want to respond to your question before about, how are the younger generations reflected in the Zero Pollution Action Plan. I think the simple answer will be they are not there, but I don't think that would be fair. I think there are some instruments that have been proposed that I think there are great opportunities for the younger generations. I think there is this Zero Pollution Stakeholder Platform. So let's be there and try to make sure that younger generations are there. The Zero Pollution Monitoring and Outlook Framework, and I think that could be the monitoring how progress is being made. You are going to be the most affected, as you said before. So you are the ones who have more at stake than anybody else to make sure that we fulfill our promises. And I think in that sense, I think there are opportunities there. But I think I would like to see moving beyond that. And as I said before, is that we really need to create social instruments, not only for monitoring or expressing our opinions, but to give us places for us to design solutions and to implement the solutions, to be part of the implementation of the solutions. So that would be, for me, something that we might need to move forward with.
Thank you so much. And sadly, these are already the last words of this panel discussion. Time went so quickly. Thank you so much for your interventions and the talk we had. Josefina Maestru, Mada Salama, Jeremy Thomas, and Joanna Baccalo, and also for your preparations as well. I have one final question for those in Slido. Please, if you have some recommendations on how to improve the youth engagement within this zero water pollution, please do let yourself hear, and we will take it along. And for the closing remarks, I'm proud to give the floor to Veronica Manfredi, Director at the Director General of the Environment for the Quality of Life at the European Commission, and also Ambassador of the European Junior Water Programme, next to many more, but I wanted to highlight this one because this is what created this great collaboration on creating this session as well, to present what you've heard and how are we going to deal with this all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Naomi, it's me who has to thank you wholeheartedly together with all the panelists, because I really come out of this session enthused, and you know, my heart is even warmer than it was when we started. I heard a number of very simple but super important findings. So first of all, that we need to marry the soft and the hard skills, and that there are people that are not water experts that still want to be part of this conversation, and that there are people who can say a word about water for the 360 days of the year, and not n'importe quoi about water, but water is so much what we are. We are ourselves constituted by over 80% of water, which I think we all feel the need to better translate what we know scientifically about what is today making handling of water more complex, more complicated, and we cannot swim in the rivers as nicely as we would like to, into something that becomes actionable change. And this is where, amongst other, the Zero Pollution Action Plan comes in with its very pragmatic 33 actions that actually build upon all the other actions announced by the Commission in the Green Deal, 9 flagships. And as a policymaker, the biggest call I get from today's call is we, the young generation, who by upbringing had to deal and to cope with environmental issues even more than my own and the preceding generations, need to be part of the conversation at all times. And this is a message I really want to bring back home. I will ensure that we will continue to make young water professionals and young people constant part of the conversation. I think that the videos were so telling about how much we can outreach just by involving them from the outset. So you have my word.
Thank you so much for this final closing remark. And with that, we're coming to an end. I would like to invite all the participants watching this to continue making waves. It's possible via our social media accounts and hashtag making waves, as well as hashtag zero water pollution. So also the European Commission will receive your input. And we hope we will see you somewhere in the future to keep this discussion engaging and inspiring. So hope to see you soon in real life, maybe even. Thank you so much for being here.